Welcome back to Steel Bear Academy. My name is Jonathan. I want to answer a question that I've gotten recently, and the question is about somebody who doesn't own a gun quite yet, but they're thinking about getting one or they want to get one. Excuse me. And the question is, someone in my life doesn't want me to own a gun. How do I reconcile that or convince them that it's okay for me to own a gun? So this is really asking the question about, you have some relationship with somebody, whether that's a spouse or a roommate or your parents, if you live with your parents, or grandparents, your whatever. You have some relationship with them, so you don't want to damage the relationship, but you want to own a gun, and somehow the gun is something that other person doesn't want you to have or isn't comfortable with you having in their home or perhaps in your life at all. So what we're talking about is how to maintain that relationship and also to get that thing that you want. You want to own a gun to protect yourself, to hunt with, to defend your home with, protect your kids, go recreationally shoot, whatever it is you want to do with your gun. How do you go about keeping that relationship intact and also to get the thing that you want? And this what comes to mind is I did a series about a series of videos about how to convince somebody, particularly how to convince a anti-gun person to be pro-gun. And it was a series of 4 videos that basically talked about the art of persuasion, how to persuade somebody to come to your side. And persuasion is not a debate. Persuasion is about convincing. I don't care about, in debate, you just care about winning the argument. I don't care about that. What I want to do is I want to persuade somebody, get them to agree with me and come over to my side and to see what it is, to see the value that I am providing to the situation that perhaps they didn't understand, didn't see, that they are now on my side. They're on board with whatever it is I was doing. And so here's some suggestions for if you are trying to get somebody to come over to your side about that you want to own a gun and they're not okay with it for whatever reason. I would also like to point out that this person, the person who doesn't want you to own a gun, doesn't want you to have a gun in their home, let's say, it's almost always that they are living with you. So this is a legitimate safety concern about your home, right? It might be that they are concerned that, little ones, children, or people who are, not mentally capable of making important decisions and, are not, all there in terms of their mental faculties. They might not be, that person may be worried that those people are going to get access to this gun and hurt themselves or somebody else. And if that's the situation, then yes, that's a legitimate concern, and that's something you'll have to talk about with them. Most of that can be alleviated by safe storage of your gun, keeping your gun in a lockbox or in a safe or, on your person. If you're in control of your gun at all times, then that'd be a little different of a story. But if it's for those reasons, that can be alleviated with lockboxes and safety and securing the gun. But but I don't think that's usually what the problem is. Usually the problem is somebody has some sort of mental opposition to or emotional opposition to you owning a gun. And it's usually not specific to you. It's usually just in general. People who feel this way are usually just opposed to people owning guns in general. And, I understand it. I think it's important to be understanding of the opposition. You need to hear what they have to say, be a good listener. Don't just disregard what they have to say because you're trying to convince them. And if you want to convince them, then you need to listen and you need to hear what they have to say and then provide thoughtful, considered, and kind answers. We're not debating them. We're trying to help them understand why you want to have a gun and why their concerns can be legitimate, and they can also be, perhaps a little unreasonable, or they could be a little bit short-sighted, or they can come from ignorance. Their opinions can be kind of all those things. However, it's still their opinion, and you want to carefully and genuinely show that you care about their opinions, because you do, right? You are living with this person and you have a relationship with them. You don't want to jeopardize your relationship, and you don't want to be a jerk. You want to be kind, listen to what they have to say, and then offer your feelings about why you want to have a gun. Typically, it is because of ignorance that they don't want to have a gun, meaning usually the heart of it is that they just are opposed to the concept of people owning a gun. And I think, in a perfect world, nobody would have to own a gun. Everybody would respect each other's boundaries, and nobody would try to victimize other people, and that would be a wonderful world, right? However, that's not the world that we live in. And in the world that we live in, people have the ability to hurt other people, and sometimes they do. And that's why we want a gun, right? We want a gun to be able to protect ourselves. It is a tool in our self-defense regiment, how we keep ourselves safe. It is a last resort. It is a tool for those times when all other methods have been exhausted. And that's when it's good to have it, even if you don't need it all the time. And that's usually a recurring mantra that people have when they're trying to convince somebody is, it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it, right? You've probably heard that one before. So that's what I would recommend kind of moving toward. Try to address their concerns, try to hear all their opinions and address them one by one. And I'll kind of go down the list of common things that people say and things that you can respond with. So another one that people often say is that they are worried about the danger of a gun. Well, to their credit, a gun is a dangerous tool. People might think, people often cite a statistic saying people are much more likely to be shot by a gun in a house that has a gun. Well, yeah, duh, because there's a gun in the house. They can't be shot with a gun if there's no gun in the house. So yes, introducing a gun into the house has some inherent risks, because it is something that wasn't there before and is then put into it that is a dangerous item. It can cause harm if handled incorrectly or by somebody who is trying to do, some harm, right? Give them that. Say, yes, that is true. However, always the however, and then talk about the dangers of, that you want to avoid. There are many, many other dangers in the world. People, crime, people breaking into people's houses, people trying to hurt other people. How often do you have to, look on the news to see that kind of thing happening? And having a gun stems from a desire to not want that to happen to you. And so that is a thing that you want to work in. It's about keeping yourself safe. You probably also want to work in that it's about keeping your family safe. That person who's with you, if they're part of your family, the gun is not just for you to enjoy, it's also so that you can keep them safe and keep yourself safe. If you're the head of your house, or you're the, if you are the person that protection would fall to, meaning you're like let's say you live with some elderly people and it's your job, they're not going to be able to protect themselves without a gun because they're kind of elderly, right? They probably aren't going to be useful in a fight if they're elderly. So if it's going to fall to you to protect them, well, it'd be really nice to have a gun to be able to use to keep them safe and yourself safe, right? You want to try to get creative with your, try to really focus in on the thing that is bothering them. Sometimes it's as simple as that they just don't like guns, that That's what they say. Well, it's usually not that simple. That's kind of the smokescreen to cover the really heart of the issue. And as I said, the heart of the issue is that they don't want guns in society. Well, sometimes that is a hard truth to swallow, that society is not as they would like it to be. Acknowledge that, just say, Grandma or whatever, I understand that it would be nice if society was perfect like that, but it's just, it's not really like that. And so I want to keep us safe. I want to be able to keep us safe and protect us and that kind of thing. And so it's important for us to have a gun that we can use safely and responsibly. That's kind of how you want to attack the argument, attack the disagreement, if you will. If you are somebody who is responsible, and hopefully you are if you're looking to get a gun, try to draw upon past things that they would agree with that you're responsible about. So if you drive a car, even if, let's say, they drive in the car with you, you can use that as a analogy to this other thing, that you want a gun. They might say, they're worried that they don't want a gun in the house, and you say, well, you're right, a gun is a dangerous thing, but I drive a car, right? And they're like, yeah, you drive a car. A gun is kind of a dangerous thing too, just like a car is. And you trust me with a car, right? Yeah, they trust you with a car. Well, don't you think that I would put the same amount of care into owning a gun as I do to driving a car? Yeah, I guess you would, right? You want to try to draw on prior experiences, prior things that you've done, prior things that you've shown them that you're responsible with doing, to this new thing that you're trying to help them get comfortable with you doing it. Sometimes it's that they just have ignorance about the gun, ignorance about guns in general. If they think that guns just go off, well, guns don't just go off. It's almost always, like 99.99% of times, caused by somebody's negligence, user's negligence. And if that's how they feel about it, it usually just comes that they don't understand how guns work. And why would they? If they don't like guns, they probably have never touched a gun, never seen a gun, never been around a gun, never shot a gun, right? So in that case, I think it would be helpful is if you try to get them some training, whether from somebody like me or a trusted friend or a trusted parent or somebody in the family who knows a bit about guns. Go pay for them, meaning your relationship person, your grandma, your spouse, whatever. Go pay for you and them to go get some training together so that they can dispel the illusions and dispel the ignorance about the gun. Guns are just a machine that if used properly are pretty darn safe, and if used improperly are very unsafe. They're not inherently good or bad. They are just a tool. They're like a hammer. They're like a car. The only thing that changes is how they are used by people. And that is very difficult for people to understand if they've never done it themselves, because if they've never shot a gun or they've never handled a gun, there's kind of a mystique about them. They're kind of like mysterious. They don't really understand how it all works. So I'd recommend you go and get some training, teach them, show them how it works, and hopefully that will dispel a lot of the mystique about the guns so that you can say, Grandma, you shot a gun at the range and you were fine with it, right? You had somebody there to show you how to do it, and we learned a lot together, and people clearly do this. It's not like, people shoot guns, and most people are pretty darn safe with their guns, so it's not like it can't happen. We can do it. You and me, Grandma, we're both confident in keeping ourselves safe and having the mental ability to do things in a safe manner. So to wrap it up, I would just suggest go watch those videos, the ones that I did about convincing somebody, because how you say it is like probably even more important than the actual words you say or the string of logical arguments that you make. How you say it, being kind, being a good listener, being somebody that they would be okay with you kind of getting your way, or you being someone that could convince them of something. That's really probably the heart of how to reconcile this, how to move past this. So I'd go take a look at those. I'm going to try to include a link. I'll put it either down in the description or on a card here, and go take a look at those. They'll go into way more depth than what I've gone into here, so that you can be a good convincer, let's say. Somebody who can show people that they are a good listener, that they considered everything, that they're mindful of they're very mindful of the impact that they're making, and they're very careful with the emotions of the person that they're talking to, and that they're basically just, those all sound like good things, basically just a good person. And most people who own guns are good people. Some are very bad, but that's the very, very, very small minority. 99.99% of gun people are some of the nicest people you'll meet. And part of that is having a very astute understanding of the responsibility that comes with owning a gun. So I hope this has been helpful for you. Go take a look at those videos. I think they'll be helpful to you. And if this is something that you're dealing with, convincing a loved one to own a gun, well, good luck. Stay with it. Be patient with them and be patient with yourself. It can take a little time. You don't need to rush it all in one day. Buying a gun doesn't need to be done all in one day. For me, I think it took like a month of not only me working it out in my own mind about how I wanted to go about doing it, and making the decision for myself to own a gun, but also to have that conversation and that relationship care to say, Jonathan, he would like to own a gun, and I'm a very responsible person, and they understood that, and ultimately they let me own a gun, I guess, right? So we maintained a relationship, and that's very important as well. I hope this has been helpful for you, and best of luck in convincing the people in your life about why you want to exercise your right, and keep yourself safe and keep them safe as well. Talk to you next time. Bye-bye.